After the unexpected death of her lover, Martha discovers a strange service that generates interactions with someone who has died. Today on Cinema Recapped, I'll show you Be Right Back from Netflix. This is an episode of a series called Black Mirror, which begins with a man named Ash in a car waiting for his partner named Martha. She arrives with some coffees in both hands, so she can't open the door, and Ash doesn't help her because he's distracted with his phone. She yells at him, so he quickly opens it. Martha starts the car and drives home while they have fun singing together. However, Ash doesn't like the next song, so he turns off the radio, and Martha gets upset. So they both start arguing about the musical genres they like. When they get home, Ash uses his phone to take a picture of a painting and post it on his social networks. Martha gets upset again since Ash is always distracted with the phone. That night they have sex, but the woman doesn't look satisfied and stays thoughtful in bed. The next day, when they're in the kitchen, Ash asks her to accompany him since they have to return a rented car, but Martha tells him she'll not be able to because she has a lot of work. Ash gets in the vehicle to return it, so he leaves home, while Martha works as an artist, using her drawing tablet. At night, Ash hasn't arrived yet, so the girl starts calling him to find out why he hasn't come home, but he doesn't answer. She decides to call the car rental company to see if they know anything of him, although they tell him that he never returned the vehicle. She calls family and friends, but nobody knows anything. Then she sees a police patrol arriving at her home and gets scared. She opens the door to the officers and finds out that her lover died in an accident. The next day, Martha is at the funeral, where her friend tries to reassure her, but Martha just tells her to shut up. However, the woman offers her a way to talk to her husband, explaining that while it is not exactly the same, it could help. Martha doesn't want to listen to her anymore, so she yells at her to shut up, and the situation at the funeral becomes awkward for everyone. A few days later, Martha is alone at home, still sad for having lost her lover, and one day, like any other, she finds messages from her friend Sarah, who tells her that she signed her up for a beta. Martha ignores her, but shortly afterwards receives a message from someone who has the same name as her husband, so she quickly dials her friend to complain about it, since she doesn't like that they use her husband's name to send messages. The friend tells her that it's just technology, which, thanks to the information they have about him from his social networks, allowed them to make a copy of Ash, so she can send messages, and he will answer as if he were the real one. Sarah tries to convince her that it's a good option for her to be calmer, and she also tells her that if she allows them to access his mail and personal things, her husband's copy will be even more real. Martha stays thoughtful for a moment, and then hangs up the phone. The next day, Martha feels nauseous and vomits in the bathroom. She takes a pregnancy test, which is positive, and gets scared. Then Martha finally makes up her mind and decides to start chatting with her husband's copy, so she looks for his messages and connects with him, telling him that she's pregnant, and sees that he really answers as if it were the real Ash, so Martha cries and gets emotional. Shortly after, a family member dials her to see how she's doing, but she evades them so they don't go see her, since she wants to be alone chatting with the virtual Ash. One day, she tells him that she wishes she could talk to him, so Ash tells her that they can do that, but she has to send him a lot of audio and video so that he can clone the voice and the way he speaks. Martha shares many audios that she had stored on her phone, so after a few moments she receives a call, which seems to come from Ash. She answers the phone and finds out that it is indeed the identical voice of her lover. They start to talk, and Martha notices that the virtual Ash even makes the same jokes as the original. The days go by and Martha gets used to talking to him daily. One day, she sees her baby during an ultrasound, so she records the heartbeat, sends the audio to Ash, and they both get excited. However, at that moment, Martha accidentally drops her phone, so she starts to get hysterical since she's broken it and lost communication with Ash. Later, Martha arrives home with a new device, so she puts it on charge and quickly receives a call from Ash. She answers, and the man tells her to calm down, since he's in the cloud, so he can't be destroyed as easily as breaking a phone. Ash tells her that there's something he has to tell her, but it may be expensive, since it's one more level of the beta. That's to make a clone identical to him, and they can send it to her in a package. A few days later, a delivery truck arrives at Martha's house, so she receives a huge sealed box and tells the workers where to put it. As soon as the delivery men leave, Martha quickly opens the box and sees a frozen body inside, while Ash tells her on the phone that his body is not ready yet. He tells her that she has to leave it in warm water in the bathtub, and she has to add the vitamin and electrolyte sachets that came in the box, and then she has to let it rest for a few hours. The woman follows the instructions and leaves the bathroom, talking on the phone with Ash while she waits. And after a while, the man tells her that he has to hang up, since he will begin to synchronize with the clone. Then Martha is left alone, so she begins to feel nervous since noises are heard in the bathroom, but she remembers that Ash told her not to interrupt the process. Later, Martha hears the door opening and then sees someone coming down the stairs, so she notices that the clone is exactly the same as her deceased husband. However, Martha is somewhat afraid of him, since she knows that he is not the original despite the fact that he speaks, jokes, and behaves in every way like her lover. She decides to have a drink, so she takes some courage and begins to approach Ash, noticing that there are certain details that could not be cloned, but even so, he's almost identical. She tells him that she misses him, and starts kissing him, and shortly after they take off their shirts and Martha starts asking him to go to bed with her. But Ash tells her that he has no records of how to behave with her in bed, so she'll have to show him. Then, while they're doing it, we see that this time Martha is enjoying the act. When they finish, she asks how he does it so well. So Ash tells her that that's how he was programmed, since he was trained with adult videos that were shown to him by his programmers. The next day, Martha wakes up and gets scared, since she sees Ash, who is not moving, and his eyes are open, but the man reassures her, saying that he doesn't need to sleep. If she wants, he can close his eyes during the night. Later, Martha is working on one of her drawings when she notices that a car arrives at the house, and sees that one of her sisters is coming, so she quickly tells Ash to hide in a room, since she prefers to keep him a secret. Then Martha receives her sister, so they start talking about how her relatives were worried about her, since she hardly answers the messages. At night, the sister leaves and tells her to please keep her posted. Martha drinks some water and Ash arrives. Then she gets upset, since she thinks that what she is doing is wrong. When they go to sleep, the woman tells him to at least pretend to sleep and breathe like a normal person. However, Marcia loses patience, so she tells Ash to go out of the room, but she goes after him and starts fighting, since she considers that his behavior is not the same as that of the original Ash. He asks her if she wants him to fight back, since he has a very extensive catalog of rudeness, but the woman gets even angrier and pushes him out of the house. The next day, we see that Ash spent the night outside, not far from the house, since he cannot go more than 25 meters away from the house, or from his administrator, so he asks her to please let him in, and Martha allows it. Ash goes in to change his clothes, since Martha will take him for a walk. She takes him to the edge of a cliff, and orders him to jump, and Ash is determined to obey, but Martha tells him that the original Ash would have begged not to, so he begins to beg, obeying everything his administrator tells him to do. Martha gets even more desperate and screams in anger into the air. A few years later, we see that Martha's daughter is growing up, and that her mother celebrates one of her birthdays, and gives her a slice of cake, but the girl asks her to give her another, so she can take it to the attic, where Martha keeps Ash locked up and only allows her daughter to see him every now and then. The end. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to continue receiving the recaps of the best sci-fi series and movies. Thanks for watching.